Bartlett Plan Commission for July 12th, 2018 at 7:02. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Jim Lemberg. Mark Hopkins.
Here.
Tim Ridenauer. John Miasso. Here. Diane Nagel.
Here.
Austin Hopkins.
Here.
Jack Allen.
Here.
Jerry Callis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the March 8th, 2018 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Secretary call the roll.
who? And Austin. Okay, Mark Hopkins.
Yes.
John Miasso.
Yes.
Diane Nagel.
Yes.
Austin Hopkins.
Yes.
Jack Allen.
Yes.
Jerry Callis.
Yes.
Jim Lemberg.
Yes. The items this evening are public hearings. We have a sheet in the back where the clock is over there. If you have a question, a problem, answer, anything like that that you want to talk about, fill out that form and hand it into the staff, and we will call your name at the appropriate time so that you can make your statements or ask questions. Let's see, the first one here is going to be the Galleria of Bartlett. Angela, do we have all the notifications, the signs?
Yes.
Okay. I believe this one here is on Army Trail Road. All right, is the petitioner here this evening? Yes, could you stand, please? Anyone else going to give you testimony this evening? Just myself. Just you? Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? I do. Okay, thank you. Staff, would you like to do a presentation?
Sure. The petitioner is requesting to annex a 1.5-acre piece of vacant parcel into the village and to rezone the property from ER1 to B3, the neighborhood zoning district. The petitioner is also requesting a site plan review for a proposed 12,000 square foot commercial building to be constructed for 7 future tenants with a drive-through window located on the west side of the building. The building will consist of multiple colors and be constructed of metal panels, EIFS, fiber cement panels, aluminum canopies, and a stone veneer along the bottom of the building on all 4 sides. The tallest portion of the building will be 27 feet 6 inches due to the parapet wall screening for mechanical equipment. However, the average height for the building will be 23 feet 6 inches, meeting the zoning code requirement of 25 feet. Army Trail Road is under the jurisdiction of DuPage County, and the petitioner has requested 1 curb cut for full access to the shopping center. This curb cut would be located directly across from the existing eastern curb cut into the Bartlett Square Shopping Center along the south side of Army Trail Road. Per staff's request, the petitioner has shown a cross-access easement to the property to the east when or if it develops to provide a vehicular connection between the 2 properties without having to access Army Trail Road. The site plan identifies 78 parking stalls, including 4 handicap stalls. This does exceed the zoning ordinance requirements of 74 stalls, and a turnaround stall and bike rack is also shown on the site plan. A wood fence currently exists on the western property line, and the petitioner proposes to install a 6-foot board-on-board fence along the north and east property lines to screen the proposed commercial center from the adjacent residential uses. The property to the north is open space maintained by the Far Hill Subdivision Homeowners Association and is wooded along the property line. There are also bushes and trees located on the property to the east. The village's bike path map depicts a future bike path on the north side of Army Trail Road along the frontage of this property. As requested by staff, a 10-foot wide bike path will be installed to connect this proposed center with the commercial center to the west. And DuPage County has requested additional right-of-way be dedicated to include the bike path. The right-of-way dedication will take place after the village board approvals. The petitioner requested variations that were recommended for approval at the July 5th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, in which no public attended. A special use permit is being requested to allow a drive-through pickup window to be located on the west side of the building. Both the northern drive aisle and the western drive aisle will be one-way with angled parking, a bypass lane, and do not enter signs to direct traffic. This configuration is consistent with every other building with a drive-through in the village of Bartlett. The one-way traffic pattern improves the vehicular circulation and safety on the site. A special use permit is also being requested for the serving of alcohol for each of the future tenants. Each tenant would need to acquire the proper liquor license before serving, and the petitioner has indicated the restaurant will not provide video gaming to their patrons at this time. Petitioner is also requesting a special use permit to allow outdoor seating for the entire shopping center in front of any of the commercial spaces, if the future tenant so chooses. A perimeter fence will be required if they will be serving alcohol outside. Stormwater will be located below the east and south parking lots, and the engineering plans are being reviewed by our engineer and stormwater consultant. Traffic impact analysis was submitted, and our consultant reviewed the plans, and documentation provided stating they adequately addressed any comments pertaining to traffic, parking, and on-site circulation. And staff recommends approval of the petitioner's request, subject to the conditions and findings of fact set out in the memo.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the commission?
I didn't quite understand the turnaround parking space. Where's that?
So there is one stall right here. It's kind of shaded in. So therefore, if every space is filled, and they need to turn around because this is one-way traffic right here, only going south, they can turn around in this parking stall and head back this way.
Any further questions, comments? As a petitioner, have anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time. We're doing a great job explaining it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just a quick question for the petitioner. Do you have any,
Would you come up to the microphone and state your name and address, please?
Good evening, my name is Ron DeRosa. I live at 390 East Stone Avenue in Addison, Illinois.
just a quick question. Do you have any proposed tenants yet, or?
We do. We have a lease signed from a company that's owned by the Rosati Group that's called the Beef Shack. They have 11 locations they've opened so far in Illinois. This will be their 12th.
Okay.
That'll occupy the drive-through area on the west end of the building.
Okay.
I have a question. How far, do you know how far you are away from the closest residence there in Far Hills?
We're pretty far, I believe. There's, to the north of us.
That corner area that,
Yeah, well, there's somebody to the east of us, which is 3 acres, I think, away. You could see that
Right.
brown house there. And then our corner is probably 150 feet away from that residence there.
okay, thank you.
Angela, where's the closest house? Is it that rectangle?
It's actually, this is actually a pool, so it's directly to the east of that right here.
And we have a 6-foot board-on-board fence and a 8-foot landscape zone, right?
Correct.
And cut-off light fixtures.
Yes.
And completely screened RTUs on top of the building.
Yes, and this whole area right here is actually heavily landscaped on the homeowners association side, so that will remain.
Okay.
I see you're putting up a board-on-board fence. I hope you're doing it with steel posts.
It's based upon the design of the structural engineer, but I'll take that recommendation for sure.
And normally they last a lot longer.
Yeah.
When you go by some of these places, the fences are falling down. And the ones that have the steel posts, they stay in there for a long time.
We own 31 retail centers that we've built in and around the counties here, from Kane to Cook to DuPage. We find that the fencing is probably the most maintained piece of architecture that we have on our property. So we try and build them so that we could adhere to whatever the modern progress is, so that we don't have to maintain as much. We've done vinyl, we've done wood, we've done steel. So I agree with you. A steel post is probably the best way to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you talk a little bit about how loading works and how stacking for the drive-through works?
So, because we have one entrance, which is a full access that you see there just to the east of the property, it's a continual one-way direction around the building. So the stacking for the drive-through comes in through its own drive-through where you have the markings that will allow for cars to get outside of the drive-through to exit the mall. So you'll enter in from the east side and you'll come around the building to the west, and then you'll exit back out to the east, northeast side.
You have one entrance, but
So that's a
I dotted it.
painted separation between?
Painted separation
So
for
that's
safety vehicles.
Continuous bailout.
Right,
Okay.
correct.
Good.
And this striped area right here is for loading, so it's out of the way of everything else.
Okay, so that'll accommodate what kind of truck?
That'll accommodate up to a 45-foot vehicle. Most vehicles that deliver to these size centers or these size stores are straight trucks, probably about 28 feet in length.
Got it. Sounds good. I'm done.
Angela, is there a left turn permitted out of the shopping center?
Yes, it is a full access.
Okay. Is there any concern of the stacking that's going to be? Is it going to have its own turn lane and left-hand turn lane, or is it you can turn right or you can turn left from that side?
So the stacking to actually turn onto Route 59 actually goes to about right here. So they are aware that if any improvements are made, you know, that it might block in front, and the traffic analysis kind of mentioned that, but they say it clears within a minute or two, I believe, is what the analysis was, so they didn't foresee an issue. And then there is that entrance, that full access that's directly right across to the south as well, that can go right and left as well.
But the entrance and exit from the actual shopping center, is it
Oh,
going,
I'm
how
sorry,
many
there
lanes?
are no turn lanes. It's just two-way,
It's two?
yeah.
I think that's kind of a concern, isn't it? I mean, we've seen this before, and that can cause an issue, especially with that type of flow. I think people are going to be trying to turn left, and during rush hour, you're going to have a backup of vehicles. A lot of people are going to want to turn right out of there, and you're going to get one car that's going to turn left, and you're going to get kind of a backup. I don't know if there's a way that can be made wider, so you have a right-only lane and a left-only lane, and then your entrance.
It's probably the same as that center across the street from it, this, you know,
It's identical. The widths of the driveway are identical.
yeah, is it the same? Okay.
There's also a center median, like painted median here, so they could cross theoretically halfway and wait here for any traffic.
I see a few, I mean, with that area around there, I just see it's getting built up, and I know there's another area over there that's supposed to be developed, and I don't know, I just see a future concern that that's going to be an issue. Maybe not now, maybe not in a year or two, but it's going to definitely become an issue. And especially with that being the only entrance and exit to this shopping center.
We requested two. We got assigned one. So we wanted one a little bit further west so that you can come in and make that the right turn and make this further west or east driveway the left turn out. But Kane County wouldn't give it to us. DuPage County wouldn't give it to us. Just confused on what center I'm talking about. But yeah, they wouldn't give it to us, so that's why they granted full access there. But to meet the parking requirements and the amount of spaces needed for the building, we just needed to maximize the parking. That's why we just identified what the drive-through was, or the drive-out was from across the street, and just mimicked it in our center.
I get you.
Any further questions from the members?
Did they cite any particular reason why they wouldn't give you another access?
You know, they really didn't give us a reason. They just said that because this is lined up with the driveway across the road, that's how they wanted the drives to align. And they felt that that was the safest in and out egress and access to the center.
Is there a paved shoulder here where it comes out?
It comes back, I don't know how far, Ange, do you know? Do we see it on that site plan? I can't see that far, but.
It actually comes out pretty far, but after the street improvements, there's actually going to be a right turn lane that starts all the way back here.
It's paved now, I believe it's
Right
just
by
a
the end of the
shoulder.
lot to the west, right?
It's just a shoulder right now with no access. You're not supposed to enter to turn right on the 59, but it's paved, it's just not a turn lane yet.
Okay,
But it will be, it's in their future plans.
that would help.
Anything else? And at this time, I'll open up the meeting to the public. If there's any questions, do we have any forms filled out? No. No one? Anyone at all? Question? Concerns? Nothing? Close this portion of the public hearing. Members have any other questions or comments? No. And we'll be looking for a motion for approval of petitioner's request, subject to the following conditions and findings of fact.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Secretary, call the roll.
Mark Hopkins,
Yes?
John Miasso,
Yes.
Diane Nagel,
Yes.
Austin Hopkins,
Yes.
Jack Allen,
Yes.
Jerry Callis,
Yes. Okay. It's carried. Good luck.
That'll be on the board meeting for next week.
Maybe put in the motion those steel posts.
Okay.
more you.
Our next item on the agenda is number 18-10, Maze Lounge at 211 South Main Street in the town center. Angela, do we have all the notifications?
Yes, we do.
Okay. We also have a letter from Peggy O'Hare Vance. We enter that into the record?
I do not have that.
Don't have it?
Oh, I'm sorry, is that one from, the one that was in your packet from Town Center? From, is that the email one? Oh, yes, that one's already in the packet, so we can make it part of the meeting minutes, sorry. Yes.
Okay, then petitioner here this evening. Could you stand and be sworn in, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? All right, thank you. Angela, could you give us a...
Of course. The petitioner is requesting a special use permit to serve beer and wine to their patrons at this proposed location. The petitioner is proposing to open a video gaming establishment that will provide dining and refreshments, including beer and wine for adults that wish to game outside of a casino environment in accordance with the new state laws. This will be a 21 and older only establishment. Maze Lounge currently has locations in Lake Zurich and Hickory Hills. In the packet are pictures from the opening of Maze Lounge in Lake Zurich in April, which will be similar to the proposed Maze Lounge in Bartlett. The petitioner is also opening locations in Niles, Berwyn, Carpentersville, Burbank, Streamwood, and Addison soon. The proposed 15,000 square foot establishment would include lounging areas with about 12 seats, as well as an entertainment area with 5 gaming stations, which is the state maximum. A draft floor plan and proposed location was attached for reference in your packet. Maze Lounge is proposing to offer beer and wine for their patrons and proposes to be open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, at 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday. The state law requires video gaming establishments to be a minimum of 100 feet from any school or place of worship. There are no schools or places of worship within 100 feet of this proposed site. Maze Lounge would have approximately 6 employees, with 1 employee at each shift. And parking at the town center consists of 161 parking stalls, and this use would require 8 parking stalls. There appears to be ample parking for this use, and the town center Alta survey is on the screen for reference. Staff recommends approval of the petitioner's request, subject to the conditions and findings of fact as outlined in the memo.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the commission? No questions at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, does the petitioner have anything further they'd like to add? Could you come up there and state your name and address, please?
Angela Tamian with 228 South Main in Bartlett. I really don't have anything to add. I'm happy to answer questions. We have, as Angela mentioned, several locations that are opening throughout the Chicagoland area. I just did inspections today for Berwyn and Niles, which should be opening in August. The difference that Maze offers from other gaming lounges that you may be familiar with is that we have a very upscale environment. We, everything from our design to our hospitality, we pay a higher rate than any other gaming lounges for our staff members. We expect a little bit better customer service. We have a lot of like fresh fruit offerings and things that we serve complimentary to the guests, and we really try to tailor to the guests. We want it to be like a VIP Vegas, like personalized experience for the people that come in. And it seems that people are starting to see that, you know, in our other locations as well that are already open.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any concern at all with the competition with the already dozen, you know, gambling facilities, sites in the village that we currently have and growing?
I don't think there's a concern with Maze. We are doing it differently in the sense that, you know, we want it to be a very comfortable space. Personally, I wouldn't go into a lot of the other spaces that are out there, and it's not to talk negatively about them. It's just a space I couldn't see myself in. Some of them have locked doors. You have to knock. It seems kind of like something uncomfortable. I know that our liquor license hours, you know, said that we would, we follow the village, but we do actually close at midnight if nobody's in there, and we try to hold actually more limited hours. So we really try to do it in a way that attracts people differently than the others. And I think too, it's kind of, you know, if there was ever a concern, I mean, I can't think of the term, but you know, the stronger businesses will survive. So I don't think I'm concerned that we would have an issue with longevity.
Do you feel that you're attracting the gambling public as well as the non-gambling public in this?
You have a little bit. I noticed in Hickory Hills, it's served a little bit as like a social space, and that's what we're trying to do. We're going to start doing like some wine and cheese tastings and things like that, kind of like opening it up to talk about doing like bachelorette parties or things like that, or maybe people start there, meet there, and then do their thing afterward. Kind of in mind, and I only know personally because my husband plays and I don't, like, you know, maybe we're going out to dinner, we can sit down and have a glass of wine because the space is very comfortable. He can play a little bit, maybe meet some friends there. So we really are trying to build up that social side of the space as well.
Thank you.
What about the security?
I'm sorry?
What about the security?
The security, we have 6 cameras at all locations with several people that have access to the cameras. We have ADT alarm systems in all of our locations. We have panic buttons and alarms. We haven't had any security issues at any of our locations at all. We do a training based on keeping the staff in the front of house, so the front of the house is never unattended. They're not in the back room or outside smoking or anything like that. That's not allowed in our space or like in our business model. So we haven't had any issues. We just try to pay good attention and have good security measures as far as alarm and oversight covered to mitigate that.
Any further questions from the commission?
Did it have the hours in here? Sorry, I missed that.
I know Angela mentioned it. What I would have put in the packet would have followed the village so that we can just stick to the village. And I think it goes till 1 a.m. through Thursday, and then it's 2 a.m. Again, honestly, if the village wants to recommend that we have earlier hours, that's fine. We're happy with that. Again, we try to close early unless there's somebody there. We don't kick them out. If somebody's there playing, we're not going to say, all right, we're closing our door at midnight. If we can stay open till 1, we will, but otherwise our posted hours are till midnight.
Better not to limit it now. Then.
Yeah, and 10 to 10 on Sundays, so we limit it then too.
Okay.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing. If anyone has any questions or comments, fill out one of those forms. Staff, anybody fill out one? Anybody in the audience at all? Questions, comments? Close the portion for public hearing. Any further questions for staff or from the petitioner?
No.
No?
No, I have just one crazy statement here. That I think we ought to change the name of Bartlett to Little Vegas Bartlett. With as many of these machines here, although, I know that we do well on them, but it just seems like every place you go, the machines are there. It's like in Vegas, in the next place you're going to have the machines are in the Johns, so they don't have to miss anything. I mean, I don't gamble, so I've never been in one, so I don't know. But I've questioned how many do we have, how many are we going to get?
We actually have 11 in town, and 14 more are available that have a liquor license, so they could apply for the gaming license if they would like.
I know how that works.
Any other comments?
No.
Questions?
No.
No. Looking for a motion to approve the petitioner's request.
So moved.
Following conditions and finding of fact.
Okay, John.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Secretary, call the roll.
Austin Hopkins.
Yes.
Jack Allen.
Yes.
Jerry Callis.
Yes.
Mark Hopkins.
Yes.
John Miasso.
Yes.
Diane Nagel.
Yes.
Okay. Good luck.
Oh, waiting for this one.
Next item on our agenda is Gambit, number 18-13, located at 997 South Route 59. Is the petitioner here this evening? Yes. And anyone else who was going to give testimony? Okay, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? Yes. Thank you. Angela, do we have the documents, all the notifications?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Would you like to give us some background, please?
Of course. The petitioner is requesting an amendment to Ordinance 1995-14, which is Exhibit A for permitted uses, to no longer exclude 4 uses related to restaurants and taverns or cocktail lounges. The petitioner is proposing to open a restaurant with a full kitchen and include a video gaming that will provide dining and refreshments, including alcohol for adults that wish to dine and game outside of a casino environment in accordance with the new state laws. This will also be a 21 and older only establishment. The petitioner is also requesting a special use permit to serve alcohol to their patrons at this location. The proposed 3,500 square foot establishment would include lounging areas with about 52 seats, including a gaming area with 5 gaming stations, which is the state maximum. Gambit is proposing to offer beer and wine and liquor for their patrons and proposes to be open 7 days a week. The state law does require a video gaming establishment to be a minimum of 100 feet from any school or place of worship. There are no schools or places of worship within 100 feet of this proposed use. Gambit's would have approximately 6 employees, and parking for the Bartlett Place Retail Center consists of 47 parking spaces. This use would require 17 spaces, and the hours of operation for the existing businesses are limited, with most being closed during Gambit's anticipated high volume times, which is after 8 p.m. and on Sundays and Mondays. Staff does recommend approval of the petitioner's request, subject to the conditions and findings of fact as outlined in the memo.
Thank you.
I also received a letter from the Forest Preserve of DuPage, and they did appreciate receiving the notification and did not have any comments at this time.
All right. Enter that into the record, Exhibit A. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
How long is that site been vacant?
That the petitioners could answer that. Sorry.
Let them, they know it better than we do.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Jennifer. My address is 615 Lido Terrace, right here at Bartlett. The unit has been vacant for at least 2 years. Country and Financial was the last occupant, and from my understanding, the only occupant since '97.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
All right, now, let's see what happens.
Are you going to make any improvements to the property itself? 'Cause the fence to the south is falling down, and the trees overgrown, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to improve the property?
We would hope to
Yes.
do as much as we possibly can, but it is a condo association.
We
We're
have,
hoping to get approval.
yes, we have spoke to the new president. They are in the process of changing over hands for presidency of the association. We have discussed with him this week some of the things that we would like to see, just to give it a little bit of a curb appeal, maybe planting some flowers, get that pond up and running. So he was actually out there yesterday making some of those improvements. He's put some mulch down, he's planning on trimming some trees, and he will be reaching out to the village regarding some of those changes as well.
And then everything that we can actually handle, as we plan on refacing the fronts, redoing the canopies, making it more nice when you drive
appealing.
past. Even if you're just driving past the area, to see a building that's more in shape, a lot more pretty to the eye.
Okay, to the south of your property is senior housing, and there is a bicycle path, sidewalk, whatever, stops at the property line, and right there is a big hole in the ground. Is that going to be taken care of?
It sounds like that's going to be something the association is going to bring up at their next board meeting, which is coming up here in a couple weeks. We have addressed that as well.
You're going to address that, take care of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this particular piece of property is kind of interesting. They're looking to lease 3 of the end units on the east side right here, but this property is actually overall owned by 5 separate owners. They each own different units in the building. So that's why they have an association that does and takes care of a lot of these items. So them as being leasers are going to talk to the owners about making improvements, and we can also do that as well as staff.
Currently, it's kind of in our hands. It's hard to do everything that we would want to do to the property. Our extend ends right at our front door, so as much as our input is heard, that's what we're hoping, is that they hear of all of our concerns. Since it's been vacant for so long, we hope that they listen and actually take effect of everything that we request.
Anyone have a question or comment from the commission?
Interesting.
Not yet?
So you're leasing from 2 of the condo owners?
Just one. He actually owns those last 3 units, yes.
Okay. All right. But no improvement to the overall site plan is part of a condition of our approval, is that right?
We could. It would make it a lot harder, I think, on this specific owner. He is not the president, unfortunately. But if there are any property maintenance codes, or if the fence is falling, that is something we could seek out as a code violation and take care of through our local adjudication.
Just seems like now's the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
I guess my question is if this fence is falling down, why hasn't there been code violations issued?
We are kind of more complaint driven, so if we've not received a complaint on it, we don't seek out issues.
And these are many of the things that I myself have just kind of walked the grounds and actually taken pictures of everything that I was going to address. We brought it to the president that has not been sworn in, from my understanding, just yet, and just let him know some of our concerns, because not only is it an eyesore, but at some point you would think that it may be a safety hazard, so we definitely want those taken care of right away. And we were actually happy to see that. It looked like he kind of sprung into action, even though that's not his official title as of yet. Right away, the same day he was outside taking care of things. It sounds like he has some quotes regarding the fence and things like that. He wanted to contact the village to ask questions, because artists did put up a fence as well, just to see if maybe that fence is needed to be repaired, or if maybe it could even come down. So he will be contacting you guys regarding that.
Hopefully you have a pretty big voice. You've got over 1/3 of the unit there.
Trying.
Yes.
You know?
If we're the tenants occupying this now, we would be the majority of the area.
And it could be,
Our voice is heard.
yeah, because it's been vacant for 2 years, you know.
Exactly, and we're hoping that with our business, that will bring some overflow into the nail salon and the hair salon as well. So we're trying to use as much power as we can, but obviously, just being leasees, we don't really have a lot. But just mentioning that, there's been some other occupants that were interested in the space, and they have backed out. And from what we're understanding is some of that was maybe the place is kind of dated. It does need some updates outside. The grounds need to be redone.
What makes your gaming establishment different than the other ones in town?
Well, we don't really refer to ourselves as a gaming establishment. We're actually a restaurant that happens to have gaming. So we're a small dining area. We do have a private room for paint and sip parties as well that can accommodate about 12 people. We're going to have a wine room that will allow for just intimate seating. So maybe if you don't want to grab anything to eat and sit at an actual dining table, you can still grab a glass of wine or maybe a soda, and you can go and sit down in a more intimate setting. So we are a restaurant that happens to have gaming, but our main focus is not on that gaming area.
So if you were not granted a liquor license, would you still open your establishment?
That would be something I would have to consider, because as you guys well know, those games bring in a lot of revenue, and I do have a family to support, and I also do have plans to give back to the community because I am a resident. That's something that's very important to me. I really want to be involved in a lot of the things that you guys have going on, National Night Out. We want to, give back to the places in the community, and that would definitely help with that, giving me the funds to do so.
And plus being that we're going to be focused on the wine and the whiskey of the area, just to sample out to people who aren't so interested now currently because they're afraid to order a glass of wine and then not like it. We would like them to be able to experience that at our place, but also be able to game if they're going somewhere else to do such. Why would we not offer that to them? It's kind of a downgrade since it's available. We would hate to lose a customer, have them here for 20 minutes, an hour while they drink wine and socialize, but then go across the street to go game elsewhere.
And from what we've heard, that's a reason some of the local restaurants as well have added those gaming machines, because people were dining inside and then leaving elsewhere to go to the smaller gaming, establishments. So they've brought in those machines. They've seen quite a deal of revenue with that. And then it also means that your customers are staying longer. They're enjoying maybe their second glass of wine. They might order more appetizers. So overall, it also boosts your sales.
And what hours of operation are you looking at?
From Monday through Thursday, we're hoping to be open from 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. We will serve coffee and danishes, breakfast sandwiches, and things like that in the morning. And then on Friday and Saturday, we're looking to be open from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. And then Sundays, we'll have lesser hours from about 9 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Kind of coordinates nicely with the rest of the area that's there. This way, most of the time, there's only about 1 or 2 units that are open during Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's kind of give or take. So being with our hours, we can stress that when we're there in the morning and having breakfast, our patrons have full access to a large parking space and large parking lot. And then in the evening time, when they come back after work, all the other units are closed. They also, again, it's more intimate even in the parking area for them.
Sure.
Further questions this time? Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone have a question, comment? Did you fill out one of those forms? Okay, go ahead.
Phyllis Boyd.
Could you state your name and address, please?
My name is Phyllis Boyd. I'm at 1041 Apple Valley Drive, directly adjacent to the property in question. I had a number of questions that I wanted to ask. I was researching the village ordinance on amusements, and it's my understanding that the number of licenses for gaming shall not exceed 1 for each 3,000 people residing in the community. Is that a fact?
I am unaware of that. Jim, are you aware of anything?
I'm not aware of that limit. If you're referring to the old video gaming type of coin-operated machines that people
I'm
used
just
to
looking
have,
at the ordinance, the amusement ordinance.
that's an old ordinance that I don't even know if we even enforce it anymore.
That was my, well, I'm not talking about enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ordinance existing. Is that ordinance
Not aware
still
of
in
that
existence?
ordinance.
Is that something that we can
I can,
find out?
yeah, I can definitely find
We
out.
can look it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, the
Okay.
current gaming
need a phone
ordinance
number.
that this is going under is the state video gaming license.
Not the Bartlett
Act.
ordinance? The Bartlett ordinances are waived?
we are only, let me step back. They are applying to the state for video gaming, and they need a liquor license from us.
I understand.
And we have a video gaming license that's in the village, but there's no limit on that in terms of, that I'm aware of in terms of population.
I'd really appreciate if that was researched and
I just need your number
information.
before you leave.
Yeah,
You just
sent
write
to
it
me
on
in
here.
writing.
I have a feeling that might be referring to like old pinball machines,
That,
which we used to have, but I'll take a look,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd like to take, I'd like, from what I've seen, there's no definition in the ordinance.
I will take a look and get back to you
Then
for sure.
another question I had regarding amusements. This ordinance says, "No game room shall be located within 1,000 feet of any church or school." Is that still a valid ordinance?
It's not 1,000. I read it. Hold on.
State ordinance might be 100, but village ordinance, from what I'm seeing, is 1,000 feet.
I will check on that. Is that in the same area? The same
It
amusement?
is.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
3 amusements, Chapter 4 amusements, 3-4-2 and 3-4-7F.
Okay, thank you. I will take a look at that.
I
and let you-
believe Living Lord Church and preschool is well within that 1,000 feet. And I'd like to make some comments. It's my understanding that the petitioner is seeking to fill the floodplain, add side yard parking, amend sign restrictions, amend restrictions for bars, restaurants, and gaming, amend the amusement ordinance to allow gaming within 1,000 feet of a church or school, amend the liquor control ordinance to allow contribution to traffic congestion, contribution to reduction of property values, and contribution to blight. We already took a tremendous hit financially when that property was changed from residential zoning to commercial, to allow amendments to the restrictions that sought to protect our property values would only open up the gate for additional requests for amendments to the uses of the property. As far as blight, there are already at least 3 other video gaming licenses within 2 blocks of the proposed property. And I think we're reaching the saturation point in the area. In addition, their hours of operation are not conducive to a residential property. Their very name Gambits suggests that the focus is on gambling, not on food. I believe that a population of approximately 42,000 people, if this ordinance is indeed still in force and applies to gaming, would allow for 13 licenses, and I think already 12 have been issued.
11?
11, okay.
Yes.
The restrictions were put in place for a reason. The strip mall is located adjacent to residential neighborhood, and that has not changed. We are still there. We were the original owners when this PUD was put into place. And we objected to any establishment that served food or liquor or that contributed to, had a moral hazard on the neighborhood. This is not a family restaurant. It doesn't look good for a neighborhood, for a family neighborhood. It will not help our property values. The as I understand it, the dumpsters that are in the front of the property facing Apple Valley Drive, which are mere feet from our back door and living spaces, will be used for this restaurant, and food will be in those dumpsters. They are going to, it's my understanding that they will be adding additional dumpsters to the ones that are already there. In addition, it's my understanding that they intend to install 17 video cameras inside and outside of the property. And I don't think that any establishment that feels the need for 17 security cameras belongs next door to a residential property. We have 3 grandchildren, ages 3, 4, and 6. They play in the entire yard, as do their friends in the neighborhood. They call that back southwest corner their clubhouse. Where are the patrons of this establishment and their employees going to be smoking? We've already had issues with cigarette butts tossed over the wall, the fence, and that presents a fire hazard and a health hazard. The dumpster situation presents a health hazard and just a nuisance to our property. We object to this proposal. We are relying on the village to stand by the original agreement, and we would appreciate that that was taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am? Okay. Dale Dwyer?
State your name and address, please.
Dale Dwyer, 860 Kingston Lane. I object on a couple of issues. One that Jerry brought up, and I think this committee has to go to the village because, like Jerry says, if we don't stop, it's just going to continue for having the gambling associations. And I'm not against it morally, it's just the plan the village had and that they pay money for in your marketing is to bring businesses into Bartlett, okay? These type of facilities aren't bringing people in, and the pie is only so much for the gambling, all right? And I think the village, and you need to recommend to the village, because you're planning to put something in notice that we're going to stop it, whatever that number is going to be. But this particular facility, I'm objecting to the variations to the site and the floodplain and everything else. I live at 860 Kingston Lane. I live on Brewster Pond. In 2008, I lost the bottom of my house. Since then, we've spent a lot of money to get that flow corrected. And part of that flow is based on the new ponds that are on that site and the one that's by McMay's. It's all part of that floodplain. And you just put a new retention pond just south of that facility. And I didn't mean to laugh before when you made about the comment about the bike path. That bike path goes from one place to another, doesn't go anywhere. And we just wonder why the village comes up with that type of making those facilities put a bike path in when the church hasn't put one in and this facility hasn't put one in to take it to the corner, okay? But I object really to the variances of the ordinances. When that facility was built, it was built for the floodplain and the retention pond and so on. And I think you really need to keep that intact. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to clarify, they're not asking for any variances to the floodplain. That was actually the name of the ordinance in 1995. So they were already granted this the variances for the parking and to fill in the floodplain. So the only thing they're going to be doing is changing the uses. So it states that, but it's the name of the ordinance from 1995. The site's not changing at all, just interior and uses.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah. You can just fill one out after. That's fine. State your name and address, please.
Julie Kapajukakis, 1033 Apple Valley Drive in Bartlett. So I'll back up pretty close to this property too. I'm only the third house in off of, my goodness, Route 59. But the concern I have is that my neighbor did bring me the amusements paperwork, and I think I'm pretty good at reading these, and I really do feel that this is valid. I think before a decision's made tonight, maybe you might like to look at this paper, because I know that, according to this, if there's 3,001 establishment per every 3,000, that would mean that we're only allowed to issue 12 licenses, not 13. And I think this would be number 13. So I also, as soon as I heard that this place was opening, I was very disgruntled. Had a discussion with my husband regarding it, and we just sort of talked about, like, why is Bartlett's focus so strongly on this gambling going on? And, we understand that it's, it does bring in a lot of revenue. I've noticed what you're doing with the downtown area, how you're offering those loans right now with this money that is being generated to the village, which is nice. But I do feel that, every time we win an award for Bartlett, it's because we're a family community. We're very, known for being a safe community. And I think that every time we bring a different clientele that maybe, and I can't really judge what that's going to be, but I feel that we just risk, how we stand as our rankings. And I just think that before we just keep saying yes, yes, yes to all these type of places, that we really give it some good thought. And I just don't know why they wouldn't even want to open up a restaurant just for families to come into. It sounds like they're going to have a fabulous menu, and it's just a shame that it's 21 and over. I don't know why anybody would want to limit themselves, being especially the amount of restaurants we have in the town that are fast food focused. It sounds like they're going to be a little bit more gourmet. So that's all I wanted to say. And if you wanted to see a copy of this before your decision's made tonight, we'd be happy to hand it out. But I don't see anything that says anything. It says game room. Everything that is on this paper sounds like it's exactly what we're addressing tonight, and I don't see anything about pinball machines, or I don't even know why they would make an ordinance like that for whatever type of gaming that was you were referring to. What would that matter at that point?
I actually am looking it up as we speak, and I have the definitions. So when Julie's finished, I could read it, because it excludes video gaming terminals that are gambling terminals. And it refers to electronic games and amusement games and tests of skill. It was an old ordinance that was created in 1980, and the exclusion is the video gaming terminals that are gambling terminals.
It's interesting that in 1980 that they would have even had an exclusion like that, being that was, I don't even think that this was around at that point. I certainly don't remember when I was growing up in the 80s, but, that's just, and if we did exclude just that type of gaming, I don't know why we'd be allowing this to pass at 3,000, that's, seems really, this should be a lot tougher restriction than what you're referring to, but that's just my opinion, so. Thank you, I think that's all I had to add.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment, question? Now close this portion of public hearing.
Do you want them to speak again, the petitioners at all?
Pardon?
Do you want the petitioner to speak at all in reference to that?
Just to address some of Phyllis, Dale, and Julie's concerns, it sounds like they're kind of against some of those gaming places that have come into Bartlett, and I can completely understand their concerns. I'm a resident myself, so a lot of the things that Phyllis was saying kind of rings true. I actually live across the street from a bar. I can see it from my front window, so I'm aware of some of those things as a resident that may concern you. So we definitely know what to look for. definitely, we will have well-trained staff to handle anything. To stress on her security cameras, I just can't be safe enough. We will do our best to prevent anything from happening, but anything can happen at any time. If there's an accident outside, God forbid, we have those security cameras in place that we can clearly identify someone. It will be a live feed. It will be recorded, so we are able to look back on that and reference anything, because things do happen everywhere. I think some of the words with the zoning is what they're alarmed for. We're not changing any of the structure to the building at all. The existing dumpster that is there is the dumpster we will be using. We will be looking at getting it picked up quite often because we will obviously have food going in that dumpster. So different types of waste, but we, according to that association, will not be able to add dumpsters or change it. As far as property value, anything that kind of goes in there, you're going to see your property value change a little bit. That's not going to be really a whole lot. As far as our name, I'm actually all about themes, from my children's names to my pets' names, everything in my home. So that's where the name Gambit comes from on my side. The cigarette butts, we will have an ashtray outside in the front. None of our patrons will be permitted in that back area. Our employees will only be going out there to dispose of garbage. I am very strict when it comes to that with my employees currently at the place that I run. So we will definitely be watching that. There will be no patrons in that, more so for safety and security, but definitely for garbage as well. There is that privacy fence as well, blocking that back area. So as far as your children playing in the yard or anything like that, that wouldn't be something. We don't have live music. There won't be any outside seating. Pretty sure that's all that I can address on that part. It sounds like a lot of the wording was kind of alarming, and I totally understand that. I would definitely, be open if you guys have any questions or any concerns at any time during this process. Please feel free to give me a call. I will give you my personal cell phone number at any time, okay? Thank you.
Any further questions? Who's got one?
You want to know if she can respond?
Who wants to respond?
One of the petition- no. Yeah, no, because he closed the
Phyllis
public.
Boyd would like to respond.
Want to respond to?
To her.
Okay, all right. The portions.
You need to come to the,
My objections are not specifically to the gaming. My objections go back to 20 years when we were objecting to food and alcohol and being served and cooked, and food odors, which we have plenty of at the present time, and refuse disposal, and apparently they're not adding dumpsters, so the dumpsters that are there aren't adequate at this point and will not be adequate with a restaurant. And as far as property values, I know our property values have been severely impacted when that property was rezoned from residential to commercial. And any new venture that is not conducive to a family residential neighborhood will only impact them further. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
My name is George Cozio. I reside at 654 Hazelnut Court in Bartlett.
Public hearing has been closed.
Pardon?
Public portion has been closed. I asked before if anyone else had a question, and no one answered. So no further discussion from the public.
Okay.
Closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the commissioners?
I have one.
Okay.
I have one. And what we've heard tonight, is some good comments about food. We're considering food here, right? And you've proved that parking works, right? And that food is an appropriate use for a strip center like this. But since the project was developed in 1995, we know that they're not going to take advantage of this drive aisle connection to the adjoining property to the south. Maybe there's some way we can pressure the property owners to relocate the dumpster corral there, right, rather than have it adjacent to the residences. Right? We have a site plan opportunity there to get her over there, right? And then here we go with the food. We hear that, right? And, you know, food's an appropriate use for a strip retail center, whatever the, you know, considerations were in 1995. And staff's made a great case for that, and it fits in with the Plan Commission's purview. But maybe there's a way that some of this issue could be remediated for the neighbor. I don't know how to approach that. Maybe between the staff and the tenants, right? It's not that big a deal to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look into that. I actually noted that already, since they don't have like a trash enclosure like we do require now. Maybe we can look at relocating it to that south side.
Right. You're not going to.
There is an enclosed area now for the dumpster.
Oh, no, I can see that. It's next to this person's house. And it didn't include food at the time. So here's another spot. And we've got them in those kind of positions in the village, right?
Right. And isn't the ordinance to protect those, hide those anyway, fence them?
Put an enclosure, right?
Sorry, what was your statement, Diane?
Isn't that the village's ordinance anyway, requirement that they be fenced and hidden from view of?
Correct, yes, but I think the neighbor's concern is the noise and the fact that it's literally next to their house. So if we can maybe locate it further in the south portion down here instead of way up here,
Could you show that site plan again?
might alleviate some issues, of course.
No, it's not like we want to design by commission here, but, you know, maybe that's a move that we could make.
So back in 1995, there was discussion to do a cross-access easement right here to the property to the south. That did not happen, and from my understanding, there was a court case or some legal battle regarding IDOT and these owners, that will not be going through, at least at this time, to do the cross-access easement. So maybe possibly moving the dumpsters in this location might be better to help the residents at least alleviate that concern with noise from the trash, from the garbage truck, and then also smells and odors, instead of over here.
Could you show where it is now, Angela?
It is up here, correct?
Right, is that where it is, right there?
Yeah.
The old site plan's got it shown here, behind A and B.
Yeah, this one does
Is
show.
that square there?
But it's actually right here right now.
Well, that's a pretty far, you're furthest from that location too.
Correct. There is a nice pathway that walks all the way through.
Yeah,
for our unit in the back. And then it's all kind of hidden by trees, and there's a fence line around the dumpster. But unfortunately, they have it exactly where Angela was pointing. It is just right outside of the building area, the last unit there's an orthodontist. So it is kind of on that side of the parking lot, but it is hidden behind the building a little bit if you're looking towards the west side. But unfortunately for the residents behind, it's right at the end of their fence line. So
Given that you're going to be serving food, I would think you're going to be the biggest contributor to that.
correct. And currently, like we were trying to do, we wanted to either add a larger size unit back there, depending on what the association approves, or add an extra dumpster. But it all is under the association. But if we can force them to move it closer to us, we would love that as much as possible,
Yes.
especially with the food service.
Right now, we're going to have to pay for multiple pickups just to accommodate the trash. So
Correct.
if they can agree to move it, we can do that. That would definitely be helpful on our end as well.
Especially since we're going to be the most contribution to the actual pickup of this, because we already had to add 3 extra days just in order for us to work out as good as we should.
Is there possibly enough room in that far southeast corner for it?
There is. There's a lot of room actually where the proposal was, where that entry was going. There's a lot of room right there, literally in front of the parking lot. There's an empty space there.
Right now, but if
Correct.
they remove those bushes as they're mentioning they're going to do anyway, that would be perfect for it.
It would fit nicely there, even right onto the corner. I mean, it would fit amazing right there. We can get everybody in agreement, so over there, that would be fantastic. It would work out for us, and it would probably work out for most of the other units. And as well.
So would this be better if we work this into the motion? That way it kind of forces your, yeah, I mean, otherwise, you know, if we just have the normal motion, they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, we'll talk about it later. But you guys wouldn't be able to move forward without them doing that. That would be my suggestion.
We go back to the landlord and say, our hands are tied.
Exactly. I mean, if they want us there, I mean, unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Got some pull.
Add it as another condition in your list of conditions on page 3 there.
I suggest a timeline as well, within, 6 months or a year of the, if you want, or if you want it built
Upon opening of the-
before they're open, it's up to you.
On opening of the,
What's your timeline for this?
We're hoping September with wishfulness, so ideally October.
We have a 6-week window for build out and remodel. We kind of stuck with our contractors we're using currently under from August, the whole month of August. So we have HVAC, we have Fox Valley Fire Suppression, everybody in ties for August in order to build everything out, as long as our permits and everything go through. But we're waiting on basically to move forward because all of our drawings, everything is completed, just waiting to turn in for applications.
Are they on the agenda for next week's meeting at the village?
No.
No?
They're a little behind the other petitioner. They're running into being on the end of August. That's when their next meeting's at.
I personally cannot see dumpsters in the front of that.
It sits back a little further.
It does. On that corner, it kind of sits off of the actual parking lot. It's kind of hard to see on here, but there is about a 20-foot from the last parking spot onto the far west side.
Is there enough room, though, behind the building in that corner?
And as well as behind there.
Yes.
Correct.
If you're just, do you mean up here or over here?
Yeah, the top right above your pointer.
Like up here?
So in the top
There
right
wouldn't be any
Corner.
access.
Is there room in that corner for it?
They would have to take down all those trees if we did the top right. They would have to, there's a bunch of trees that are kind of overgrown and just not really well maintained.
And
thus
there
far.
wouldn't be access for the garbage truck to remove that dumpster.
Of course, if you go over there, maybe you're going to upset the people that.
Other side and
Exactly.
Artists, correct.
And not only that, but then
There's
that
lots of
puts us
room.
at that back fence.
there's a detention basin paralleling that property line. I think if we made a condition that says that petitioner work with staff to get it down into that southwest corner of the site somehow, so that we save as many trees as we can and we make it as obscure as we can.
I mean, otherwise, it's up by the house. You're going to have a lot of visits to that dumpster. There's going to be noise associated with it, so.
Well, think about the one that's in
If they
front of
think
the
it's-
Dominic's,
Yeah, well, if they think it's practical to be out in front, the furthest from the residences is probably the best spot for it.
And especially if we enclose it the same way it is currently, it wouldn't be an eyesore to any other patron walking around. We've seen it in a lot of units that I've opened up. I've opened up plenty of Dunkin' Donuts. It's kind of in the corner, and if you break it off nicely, it would work out really good.
You have to find someplace else to put it instead of in front of this. That's all I got to say.
The southwest corner of that building, isn't there a fire hydrant?
There is.
It would be
There'll
further out
be
from the,
enough room to.
yes, the
your
fire
department can
hydrants.
get in there.
right, in front of the
Concentration.
building. And there's actually parking places beyond that as well.
We have 4 spots in front of there.
Yeah, so it would be further out from the hydrant as well, so they would have access to that still.
Any further questions?
I have one. What is the change to the retention area? You're saying there really isn't one, or?
There is no change. So that whole title that talks about floodplain and
Yeah.
and parking, that's the title of the ordinance that passed in 1995. So they're not changing anything to the site. Everything's interior except for this trash enclosure we're discussing at this moment.
All right, I'm just confused because it's stated in there. Okay. I didn't think a tenant was really going to come in and change the floodplain, so.
The only thing we would hope to be able to do is to clean up the retention pond over there a little bit.
Yes.
That would be the farthest to our extent.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we'll be looking for a motion to approve the petitioner's request, subject to the following conditions and finding of fact.
Are you adding that one condition in there?
And
I'd like to add a condition that says that the condition of approval is the trash enclosure for the project be moved to the southern limits of the parking lot with the final location and design to be coordinated and approved by planning staff.
Okay,
Second.
have a second? Any further discussion? Secretary, call the roll.
Jack Allen,
Yes.
Jerry Kellis,
No.
Mark Hopkins,
Yes?
John Miasso,
Yes.
Diane Nagel,
Yes.
Austin Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, good luck.
Phyllis, can I grab your phone number before you leave, please?
And I need his name.
And what is your name again? Jonathan? Hello? And Julie, if you can sign one of the witness forms, please. Thank you. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Let's wait for Next item on the agenda is old business.
Yes, so CMAQ is doing their onto 2050 plan, their comprehensive regional plan. And the link is actually available on our website currently, on Bartlett's website, and then on CMAQ's website if you would like to make any public comments. Excuse me, there are three main overarching principles that they focused on for 2050 is inclusive growth, resilience, and prioritized investment. So if you're interested in any of that, you're more than welcome to go online. The document's about 300 pages, but it's broken into different sections.
Okay. Anyone in questions or comments for staff?
How's that water retention, coming along? They're supposed to start building, right, in August?
Our water, I'm sorry, I didn't,
The, whatever, yeah, right, the water treatment plant?
The tanks?
Yeah, the tanks that were supposed to be in the village.
they just, you're talking about the Lake Michigan water that's
Yeah.
coming into the village. Sorry. They just approved the receiving station contract, and that stuff should be underway pretty soon. We're still under a deadline. They're looking for another funding source for funding some of that through bonds, so we might be issuing some more bonds. But there was a couple of parts to that receiving station and then the tank storage facility. So that receiving station is going to start soon. So you're going to see some construction going on there. And then we're hoping to still get it all done by next year so that we'll have Lake Michigan water turned on and filling those big tanks. So, but I have one other bit of news, and I don't know, we're not going to have an August meeting, and I don't know if we're going to have a September meeting.
We are.
Well, we are, but I don't know if
September
I'll be there because I'm retiring at the end of September.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so I thought I'd let you know in case I don't see you anymore, but I'll see you around somewhere, so.
Got a reason for cake.
At the ballpark.
Yeah, I'll see you at the Sox games.
And he did not cry.
Almost did.
He almost did.
Thanks.
Good for you.
Anything else?
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Jerry?
Aye, adjourn.